Great to have you back on OK Movie Stream, where we feature a lot of our actors from our movies and other movies that you'll find on the site from creators all over our region. And today we have special guest Michael Wittig. Thanks for hanging out with
Oh,
us,
you're
man.
welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Michael's been in two of our movies now, and it was fun to have you. Like the first time you ended up like kind of like almost like a Home Alone, stopping the kid from running around, and then and that was in WWJR, and
Mhm.
then in uh, Holy Flicks, the one that's our newest movie, you you play a guy auditioning to be the uncle of the main character, and he does something really special. You're not going to want to miss it. It was like at the premiere is like one of the funniest scenes. Everybody.
They had a good laugh. I was nervous when that part was coming up. I was like, "How did I do? I don't remember." And it turned out awesome, and it was good to hear the audience give a good laugh during that. Hi, my name's. Could I please get some water?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, thank you.
Oh. All right. You all set?
So, are you from the Tulsa area?
I've been here for a long time. Me and my wife moved to Tulsa. What year is it? 2023. 23 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I'm originally from Southern California, from
Yeah.
Riverside, which
Uh-huh.
is about an hour south of LA.
Wow.
Once I got out of high school, my family moved to Kansas, the middle of nowhere, Kansas.
Really?
And
What
then
was it like living in the LA area? And because that would have been what, in the 80s,
I was
90s?
born in 76. I'm a bit older than I look, and I was there till I was about 18.
So it had to have been a lot of fun and excitement and things going on. Did you run into other stars while you were out there?
You know what? Living in California, we were an hour or so from the beach, hour or so from Lake Arrowhead in the mountains. You can go skiing. There's concerts. Pretty much everything you can imagine's there, and a whole lot of people in bad traffic. My mother was from Kansas,
Okay.
so once my dad passed away, she
Sorry
wanted
to
to
hear
move back with family,
that. Uh-huh.
and she waited till I got out of high school, and we moved back to where she was from, which is the smallest town you can imagine in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, called Larned, Kansas.
Larned, Kansas.
Larned.
Oh, Larned.
5,000 people,
Uh-huh.
and it's only known because that's where the Kansas State Mental Hospital is located.
Oh, okay.
So it was a great place. It was a great place. So I went from Southern California to desolate middle of nowhere, and we'll just say that I wore all black for about a year.
Is that mental hospital? Is it still there? Is it because there's like a story of like some like that's deserted but ghosts are around or something like that.
I haven't been there for quite a while, but last I heard it's still there.
Okay, but abandoned.
It's abandoned. And then once I started going to college, I went to Fort Hays State University, which is between Salina and Denver, somewhere in there in western Kansas. When I was in Hays, that's where I met my wife. I met some guys that we started a rock band, a Christian rock band called Pillar.
I've heard of them.
Some people have. We're not that well known, but we started Pillar there in Hays, and then once I got married, the band and most of our families relocated to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that was about 23 years ago.
So, what were you like in high school? Did you play some sports? What did you do in
I
high
was a
school?
nerd, man. I was a big nerd. I was skinny. Looking back at what I wore goofy clothes, but I started
Goofy, what do you like? Hawaiian shirts and shorts and
I
flip-flops?
remember for some reason wanting silk button-up shirts.
Okay.
So I was that guy, but I thought it was cool,
Yeah.
I guess, but it wasn't. But I started playing music in high school.
Okay.
I watched that first Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure when it came out.
Right.
So that dates me how old I actually am. I saw it when it first came out, Keanu Reeves, and I was like, that is who I want to be. So I
Yeah.
tried to grow my hair out a little bit, learned how to play guitar, and kind of had a passion for music ever since high school.
So guitar was your first instrument?
Yep. I had my youth pastor at church taught me how to play. My first live performance was at a church talent show, and me and my friends played the instrumental of a Metallica song
Oh,
at
wow.
a church. And I
But
remember
did you change the lyrics? No?
we just played the
Just
music. We didn't
this.
even have a
Yeah.
singer. We were
Yeah.
just just had the music. And I remember my silk shirt unbuttoning just a couple buttons because I thought that'd be rock and roll.
Yeah.
But my lifelong passions have always been music and fitness.
One of my good buddies in high school, he's named Michael too. He played guitar and he was like probably like you, amazing, fabulous guitar. But all he did was got guitar magazines and spent, all day and night in his room playing guitar, hardly ever hung out with us. And he went on to be really, he played for like one, I think it was like the Babies or the Angel, something like that.
Hmm.
And he has told the story of meeting him in Vegas, and they wanted him to change his clothes and cut his hair like them, and he didn't want to do that. So then he went back to Dallas, where he ended up being pretty popular there, and a
Okay.
sessions musician and such. But
I was a guy in high school that I was always been kind of self motivated, a little business minded. So I was actually the one that put the bands together. I wrote songs back then,
oh
booked our
wow.
shows, at just coffee houses or churches or just wherever I could get us. I was the business guy even from day one. And then I switched over to bass. The jazz band in my high school needed a new bass player because he was graduating. He was a friend of mine. His name was Bill, and he taught me how to play bass. And the real reason I switched to bass, so
Fewer strings.
no, the cutest girl in the whole school was in the jazz band. And
Okay.
I wanted to meet that girl, so I was like, "Yeah, I'll switch to play." I never did talk to her. I was too shy to ever talk to her ever. But I
Uh-huh.
ended up enjoying the bass, and that's kind of my main instrument now, and what I played in Pillar.
So do you like it better than the guitar,
It
or?
has less strings, like you said. Now, the technique's completely different with slapping and just things that you could do with it. I just enjoyed it more, just a little bit bigger instrument. And there's less bass players out there. So when I was putting bands together, you can find guitar players, but it's
Yeah.
hard to find bass players. So I kind of was always the bass player. It just worked out.
Libby's a bass player.
Hey, Libby, rock and roll. I was just practicing bass right before I came up here.
Were you?
And I have a funny. You were just telling a story about your friend needing to change his look and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Got a funny story. So fast forward a little bit. Was in Pillar. We got signed, and we could talk about some of that
Yeah, yeah.
later. But
Yeah, I plan to.
but I was in Nashville. We were getting ready. We were signed, working on our first big album that was going to be released internationally.
Uh-huh.
And this was about just a couple weeks before my wedding. And we're having the photo shoot. Like, so we're doing big label stuff. We had the
Right.
managers and the agents and all these people shuttling us around, telling us what to do. And they wanted to do this photo shoot. And this was like just a week or two before my wedding. And the stylist was like, "Okay, can we dye your hair pink?" I don't know. Let me call my wife. Hey, they want to dye my hair pink. What do you think? And she's like, "No." Well, how about blue? No. So we settled on black. So for my wedding pictures, I have black hair that I've never had before, just because it was for the photo shoot.
Yeah. And I looked at some of your photos, from what you guys done recently and in the past, and I thought, I've never known Michael not to smile. You were like, you were almost like Mark Wahlberg in The Rocker, where they're taking their pictures, and he keeps smiling, and they tell him, don't smile. Rock guys don't smile,
Oh
and
yeah, me and the drummer, we had during photo shoots. There was me and him. We always took great photos because we
mhm.
had the same look. We had like A, B, C. So we were on the sides, and the other guys would always try to be animated and smile. And they goof up every picture. Me and Lester would be like, "Let's do B. Let's do A." We just
You
it's
had
just the same
looks.
look. You just look.
Ew.
It's the same look every time, and your pictures are always going to turn out great. When you try to change it up, that's when they get messed up.
Yeah, that's funny. What you said you were kind of the business mind when you got into wanting to do bands. How did that make you different in preparing for it? Because like I know that, in the old days, like in the 50s, a lot of guys that got record deals or whatever, they just whatever, just give me whatever you're gonna give me. And I would read about them where they had like some of the record labels would like once the CDs came out and then digital, well, we're not paying you for that. We only pay for records, and you had to really be conscious of some of that stuff.
Th
What is it that you learned and how, maybe some other artists out there, young artists might need to know?
what we did and the philosophy we did is so we were from the middle of nowhere, Kansas, but there was still places to play all over for us. You know, we were busy. Before we were ever signed, we were full time. Full time, like paying our bills, not rich, barely getting by. We were in our low
Right.
20s. Most of us weren't married at the
You don't
time.
need as much
We didn't need
money.
as much money. And we had an old school bus that we traveled in that we gutted. You know, had our own sound system. We were very self sufficient where we could book a show, show up with our own sound system set up, play the show, have everything they need.
Mhm.
And I booked the shows. I was able to book us enough that we all quit our jobs.
Awesome.
Before we were signed, and this was also before my wedding, we went on a 6-week tour,
Uh-huh.
like throughout here, all the way to California and back, that self booked. You know, so we were self completely just we're doing it already. We didn't really need a label at the time. We needed one to get to the next level, but not to do what we were doing.
Uh-huh.
And then if you do that, then when the labels call, it's like you're already proving yourself to them. It makes it easier to get a better deal, to even get noticed
Right.
and to get a better deal. So the way I've explained it to younger bands is we're in Kansas. It's not LA, it's not New York or even Dallas, but we were the band in Kansas.
Yeah.
Everyone who even the surrounding states, we were the Christian rock band. When you talk about that, that's who we were. So you're like a beacon of light in that whole Midwest. People knew or we were talked about versus if you were from LA or New York, you're just a speck that's lost in the middle of nowhere.
Now there's a kind of a stigma that comes with the way, you said that Christian rock band. So were you just playing uh church events and community events, or were you playing, clubs and uh other venues?
Because of our style, we played both. We
Mhm.
were able to play both. We were very outspoken, still are. We're relaunching here next year after a big
I
break, but
saw that.
we were very outspoken. Like our singer Rob, who's actually a pastor here in Tulsa at Battle Creek, he would preach. He would do altar calls. Like early on, we were like full on.
Wow.
Like our style of music back then was Linkin Park, Papa Roach, Limp Bizkit type style,
Yeah.
POD, pretty
Yeah.
hard rock with a little rap or in the early days, and our singer could sing really well. So it was a mixture of rap rock, which means we also played some clubs and we'd play with some non-Christian bands here and there and just about anywhere.
What made you decide to go that route of that genre?
It's just what we all liked at the time.
Yeah.
You know, Rob was into it. It's what I listened to. Our guitar player, who's the big writer at the time, was just really into heavy music. You know, so it's just what we all liked. We just played what we liked.
So what was it like when you were traveling around, riding around in that bus, the four of you? Or there more?
There was 4 of us and sometimes like a helper or just a friend, but normally just us 4. I remember during the summer it just being really hot because this was a school bus. It was gutted, so with couches put in there and no air conditioner. So imagine touring through the Southwest down by the what's way down there? San Antonio, Texas. You're
Yeah.
close to the border. In the middle of the summer, it's 110 degrees with no air. I just remember being, passed out and sweating, but we had a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Um, I remember the bus would break down all the time. Our drummer Brad at the time, he left the band after a while and Lester came in, but Brad was like the repair guy. So
Okay.
he would be out there fixing our bus, get to the next show. There's a lot of good times. We were young and knuckleheads, we probably could have did a lot of the things better, but you know what, we're a Christian band, so I feel that God used us despite our mistakes and how we probably could have did things better back then. God used us the way he wanted, and we touched a lot of lives, and that was
Did
the important thing to us.
did you guys decide, I mean, by having like the wanting to be a Christian band, was that because of all of your personal beliefs, or did you just feel like that was just a place that you needed to be, or what was that?
It was personal beliefs. We were all believers. We all are believers, and it was a really no question. It's not nothing we had to discuss.
Uh-huh.
It was just that's who we were, and that's what it was going to be. Now, when I met the Pillar guys, though, the interesting thing is I in California was in all Christian bands, and when I moved to Kansas, I didn't know anybody. And the guys I met were not really Christians. I didn't know any Christian musicians when I moved to the middle of nowhere, Kansas. There
Right.
wasn't a lot. I met some guys when I started going to college in Hayes, but they were not Christian guys. So I just was just playing. I was Christian myself, but just playing music with guys. And being the business guy, I had started a band, had the name, was organizing practices, booking shows, doing what I do. But it was a non-Christian band. It was just what there was. And then we had played with the very beginnings of Pillar at a festival. And I met the singer Rob, who was playing bass at the time. He was playing bass and singing, and they had just started. And I was like, man, that guy could sing. And me and him talked, and he was talking about how they need a bass player. And I was like, gosh, these guys are good.
Yeah.
I was pretty good at recognizing talent too.
Mm-hmm.
And he saw me play, and I think he was like, this guy would be a good addition. And it's something I prayed on. And you got to realize the other band is I started the band. I booked the shows. Without me, that band wasn't going to happen.
Right.
And I remember driving to my apartment from a college class, and God just really laid it on my heart that you need to join Pillar. Like I had to pull over because God hit it. It just hit me that hard. It was so audible. I didn't hear the audible voice, but it was in my head, almost audible. And I, told my current band, it was called Mishap. Hey guys, I'm gonna stop and join Pillar. And they were of course mad, really upset. And, joined Pillar, and it kept my mouth shut at the beginning, just learned the songs with just the bass player. But then as I got comfortable, I was like, okay guys, I can start doing this and booking shows, and from there it's all history.
Yeah, and a lot of people probably to them, they're do it, because I don't want to do that. I don't want to call people and get rejected or get told one thing or another. You go ahead. Nobody wants to be the salesperson.
Just that was me, and just jumped in, and it was good times in college. We would stay up till 3 three of us rented a house.
You all went to the same school?
Went to the same school. Well, how they originally heard about me, they heard about me before we met, is because there was a Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I through friends heard they needed someone to help them with worship music. So I grabbed some of my guys who were non-Christian. I was like, hey, let's go do music over here. And I was like, maybe this would be a good influence on them. I've done worship music before. So we did a worship set or two here and there, and the guys heard about me through that. Hey, there's a Christian bass player. So, and I heard a little bit about them until I met them at that festival, though. Then it all clicked.
See, in college, I did a lot of shows too. They were all air bands, but we won a lot of air band contests, and I was the lead singer there, and just lip syncing, but it was still a lot of fun.
You're not joking. This
No,
real?
no, we would have because I went to a big school. I went to Texas and Austin, and there would be several hundred people in these contests. They would have
Oh, wow.
air band contests, and we just, like we did stupid stuff, like the bassist we wrapped Christmas tree lights around his guitar, and he would hit a button so they would light up. We rigged it all, and we had people that would drop dry ice in buckets on the stage.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
we have fog. We just made it, whatever
Made
we
it
could
fun.
do. Yeah.
I actually had a bass that was featured in one of our big hit songs that was made for me by a company called Warrior. And lights would go down, and I hit a switch, and the lights would go up down my neck. They were embedded in the neck. I'm actually there. They hit me up, and we're making a new one for next year.
Very cool. So how'd you meet your wife?
I met her in college.
Yeah.
And my life kind of changed and started for the better at middle of nowhere, Kansas, and Fort Hays State. That's where I met my bandmates. That's where I met my wife. The funny thing is, so I was going to the colleges have those areas where you can get work. I don't know what the work study or work something to help you find a job. And I went there. There was a real cute girl there, and I was like, oh, this girl's cute. So I had asked her out, but she told me no because she had a boyfriend. Fast forward about a year later, right before a semester started. It was August. My birthday's in August. School started in August. Got to campus early, a couple days before school started. It's my birthday, and I called up my friend that I had worked with at a pizza place. Hey, it's my birthday. Why don't you come over? Well, I'm with my girlfriend. Can she come? I said, as long as she brings a friend. He came over with his girlfriend Charity, and she brought her friend Stacy. And I met her on my birthday, and
nice.
thought she was gorgeous, and was just staring at her, and ended up getting her number and calling her, and that was my wife. Now, come to find out, her best friend was that girl at the work study.
Oh, really?
That I had asked out the year before. One of her roommates and one of her best friends. So It was kind of funny how everybody kind of knew each other.
Always like that connection, yeah.
And my wife said though she had seen me. I worked at a pizza place. I had delivered pizza to her before,
Oh, wow.
and she remembered me, and I actually thought I was cute. And I guess I had a class before one of her classes. She would see me come out, and so she had her eye on me, but I never realized who she was until she came over to my apartment that one day on my birthday.
That's funny.
And it's been 23 years now. We got married in August of 2000. Now, as a man, this helps me because when it's 2024, we'll have been married 24 years. And our anniversary is 2 days before my birthday.
Yeah.
So I never forget when it is or how many years.
Yeah, what I did was, when my wife and I got together, now that we have phones and always taking pictures, we would date pictures and the engagement day picture and the wedding day, and I put them all in a book with the dates so that that stays in our living room so I can reference
Okay.
that, all the time.
There you go.
I won't forget. And so you're kind of modest about being in this band Pillar, and this band was pretty big, and it was really big for Christian music because of the fact that you can look it up, and it's like out of you're in the top 25 all time Christian rock bands, and you guys kind of changed when like you were doing Amy Grant songs. You changed the way people would consider listening to Christian music. You were doing and making. They used to try to force lyrics into
Mhm.
songs to make them sound Christian, but you made it all work, and the music worked, and it was part of a generation. I believe, and still a lot of it sounds. I had this show called the CMC when I worked for LaCie Broadcasting, which is a Christian network, and they have stations all over the country. And
Mhm.
and the CMC was Christian music charters, and
Okay.
and it didn't dawn on me when we first met that wait a minute, what it was my stepdaughter who saw you at the premiere who said, "Oh, that's a bassist for Pillar," and I looked it up, and yeah, it is him, and it was like, we used to play, your music videos on our show all the time,
Mhm.
and then I produced another show that was a Christmas special that I can't remember for certain, but I know that, Stars Go Dim,
Mhm.
which was another band you played with,
Mhm.
we taped you for the Christmas special,
Okay.
and and I'm sure we met, and did you when you were with them, did you ever play at they have, like, a studio at a church studio that's across from, like, where Best Buy is on 71st Street?
So, Stars Go Dim started off as a side project for me and some guys with Pillar,
Uh-huh,
some of our extra musicians that we'd have bring out, and some of my friends,
uh-huh,
and it was just kind of because pop music is completely different than what Pillar did. It started
right,
off just as a side project for fun, and to kind of play around to see what I could do with it. The singer of that group actually went to church at Asbury.
right.
He was the worship leader, one of the worship leaders there. I had a friend that worked there and said, "Hey, we need a worship leader. Do you know somebody?" And I said, "Yeah, I got this guy." And he ended up working there for many years.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, we did. It was different music for me than I ever played before. We would do stuff, and it wasn't labeled Christian. It was more general pop. So we did some stuff with the Goo Goo Dolls and John Mayer, and
Right. Yeah.
some of the stuff like that. But it never got to the level that Pillar did. Pillar, we weren't the pioneers of rock music for Christians. That would go to like Petra and Striper. Um, but our style was not that. Those were not our influences. Our influences of what was rocking at the time in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Like I said, Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit and
Mhm.
s- POD was just, if you've heard of them,
Yeah.
they're payable on death. Those bands kind of inspired us at the time. But it was a different time back then. In the early 2000s, Christian rock was becoming a big thing. There was a lot of
Mhm.
radio stations all over. There was magazines. There was Christian rock magazines at the time out there. I can't remember what they all were anymore, but I have them at home in a tub. And we were blessed to do some cool things.
What
You
was it
know,
like when you got nominated for that Grammy and,
it,
and we're touring and doing big shows and
it was, looking back, it was just a big whirlwind because we would tour 200 days a year.
Wow.
And just got married, first son after a few years, and we were gone a lot, 200 days a year. So looking back, it was just a whirlwind. Before the Grammy, we're nominated and won a couple Dove Awards, which is like the
Right.
Christian Grammys.
Yeah.
Um, we did well, and we weren't world famous, but for what we did really well. I remember getting these like CCM Christian Magazine and this other one. I can't remember what it was called. Seven Ball. It was a Christian rock magazine that was all around, and they would have best rock band, best rock bassist, or best Christian bassist. I would look in there and be like, oh, I'm number two. CCM, oh, I'm number three, best bass player in the. I always thought that was cool, but
Yeah.
it was just it seemed like a lifetime ago.
So touring, doing 200 shows, how did you get your workout in?
Well, I was skinny. You look back at those early pictures, there was a skinny Michael there. I loved fitness still. I started that in high school as well, but there's a time there where that went on took a on the back burner
Yeah.
because we were out playing shows and getting fed pizza after shows, but we started back in with the fitness. So during the band days, started training again.
Well, you have to, I would think, because a lot of what you guys do, especially a band like yours, there's a lot of activity and there's a lot, and there's a lot of you see like I worked in radio as well for a long time and and be backstage and everybody's sweaty and and just to run up and do everything you have to do and to play for that long, you have to be pretty
We were known for being
in
pretty
shape.
crazy, like cartwheels and jumping and I got to figure out how to do some of that again next year without throwing my back out. Yeah, we were pretty active, but it's more cardio. We started weightlifting for real, me and most of the band members in our bus. We upgraded from the school bus to a normal tour bus that we owned for a while.
Uh-huh.
And one of the bays was just filled with weights, where our bus actually had a slight lean to it. And it was a permanent lean. When we sold that bus, it had a slight lean because of all the weights. And we're known for that. We'd pull up at a festival or have an off day and pull into a Walmart parking lot and set up our little gym, pull our bench out and work
Oh, wow.
out. And we were kind of known for that. And a few of us got pretty stout out there on the road.
Uh-huh. Yeah, because like you were saying, I remember doing a show with Eddie Money, and he was a lot older, and he was singing "Shaking,"
Hmm.
and then he was like standing on something and doing the shaking thing, and then he didn't jump off like he used to. It was more of a kind of a walk off, and because it happens, I guess we get older,
We
our knees
do.
get weaker, and
Our last show was about 9 years ago, 2015 in Michigan. So we never broke up. We're just all busy. We
yeah,
had kids. We had a lot of kids
yeah,
between all of us, and our singer's a pastor. He was a worship leader, then a pastor. I jumped into fitness when we stopped touring because of all the kids. Got into fitness pretty big, and then the other guys, our drummer Lester and our guitar player Noah, they're two of the best musicians in the world for what they do. I mean, they're serious. I'm an okay bass player,
hmm,
but I was more business and could play bass all right. I had people fooled. They thought I was awesome. This is more flash. These guys are like the real deal. So Lester nowadays, he's been playing with Kelly Clarkson for years.
uh-huh,
So she has a TV show. You tune in the Kelly Clarkson show, black drummer in the back, that's Lester. That's our drummer. Every
okay,
day you can watch him. And so does what she does, which is the biggest events in the world.
yeah,
Then our guitar player plays country music, country rock with an artist named Brantley Gilbert.
okay,
He's been doing that for a decade, and they just got off tour with Nickelback.
oh, wow.
So they're doing high level big stuff, and me and Rob are just here chilling in Tulsa doing our own thing.
Uh-huh.
So it's been 9 years, but after this big break, it's finally time. God kind of called us back together and said it's time, and we're relaunching things and going to do some shows next year.
You said you're an okay basis, so I kind of like go by the premise though, by what you said. Uh, I think that artistry, you can be the greatest bassist in the world, but if you can't get people excited and put on a show, then they're not going to come watch you, but if like I don't think necessarily that like Mick Jagger is the greatest singer in the world, but he really knows how to put on a show. And so that's kind of what did you feel Pillar was good musicians that knew how to put on a good show or
We were known for being pretty musical.
Mhm.
I mean, it was just the right combination. God put us together because our drummer Lester is one of the best drummers in the world. When we'd play shows, he was so good that every musician at a festival, let's say a festival with tons of bands, every musician would show up to watch him play. He was that good. Our
Wow.
guitar player Noah is a genius, phenomenal guitar player. He has really long dreads, and his performance level is I mean, he flipped them dreads around, do a one-handed cartwheel holding his
Yeah.
guitar. Me and him would flip our instruments around our body. Those guys brought the musicality of Pillar to a whole nother level. And then we were just the songs that we wrote, just we're just inspired. Like sometimes I'd write a bass line, I'm like, where'd that come from? And just we're good at writing songs. We focused on songs more than being amazing musicians, but those guys are so good that it brought that level of musicality really high.
When you guys kind of, took a break and you got into bodybuilding at that point, right?
Mhm.
Or did it take a little while for you to?
I've always loved fitness. So I started fitness and music around the same time, both in high school. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and my youth pastor started my music journey. For fitness, it was because I was just really skinny growing up. I was so skinny that I was embarrassed to go swimming with friends, like take my shirt off.
Uh-huh.
Definitely didn't want to take showers in the locker room. And it wasn't because I just wanted to have, I just was so skinny. I was really self conscious about it. So I talked to my dad about it, and he bought me this little weight set for my room and gave me his book, Arnold Schwarzenegger book. It's a encyclopedia of modern bodybuilding. It's about this thick. I
Uh-huh.
still have the book
Wow.
that I still reference. And I just started working out on my own. At first it was just the bar, the empty bar. I was like, "Ugh," and just enjoyed it though. I enjoyed the process, and it's something that I've always enjoyed, like since then, since I was 15. I had really great progress. Was had a picture published after my first year in was it Flex magazine in June '92 or something like that. There's a Arnold on the cover, and there's a picture of me, 16 years old, and a little blurb on my results, and it's just something it was off and on through the music days, but it's something I always enjoyed. So once we got off the road, it was kind of really. I had about a year of what am I going to do now, and then it was no question. I went ahead and got certified as a trainer and just jumped full on to music. I mean, into fitness, using what I learned in the music industry about marketing, promotions, sponsorships. I took all that knowledge and aimed it towards fitness like immediately and just started a whole new career path.
So do you see, because to me there's like conditioning, there's fitness, and then there's bodybuilding. Those are all kind of different things, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say what I do is fitness with a mixture of all of them. Like,
Mhm.
of course, I like building muscle but I never wanted to be the hugest guy in the world because I am health first, I'm natural. A lot of the biggest bodybuilders you've ever seen, the guys are like look like the
Right.
spectacles or like some people would say freaks. How in the world.
Can't really move,
Yeah, well,
seeming,
some
yeah.
of those guys that are well known, they do take a lot of drugs and a lot of illegal and dangerous chemicals to do that, and that's never been my path.
Right.
I wanted to build muscle, as a young man and get big, but I always wanted to be healthy and do it natural. I was telling your son that I lost my parents at a young age. My grandfather, who was my dad, I was raised by my grandparents. That's a big story, but
Oh,
they
okay.
were my parents, and he passed away when I was in high school. And it, you know, I still think about him all the time. It's a hard thing, and I lost my mom about 13 years ago. So for me, I want to be around for my kids
Mhm.
because my dad, he missed so much. He didn't see Pillar. He knew I played music and saw some of the early
Right.
stuff. He never saw Pillar. He never saw my fitness stuff, win the championships. He never met my kids because he passed away.
Was he encouraging to
Oh,
music? A lot of parents
yeah.
wouldn't be, they wouldn't
No,
necessarily even my parents, they didn't really want me to go into entertainment because how are you gonna make money,
they're very supportive. They bought my instruments for me. They encouraged me. They let me set up in the garage. They were
Nice.
they were overboard supportive, and I wouldn't have been able to do what I've done in life with music and fitness and all these crazy things. There's a lot more that I do for fun without their support and encouragement and just the mindset that they were both entrepreneurs. My mom was an entrepreneur. My dad was just very just a smart guy, and I learned a lot of what I do with music and fitness on the marketing and business side from them.
Yeah, it's smart that you did because I know I met a lot of like doing comedy, I met a lot of comedians that weren't very business minded, so they didn't look at it as a job per se. So they never evolved. They never created. And then today, a lot of, and I guess in the music industry too, it's about how many followers do you have on your social media, and keeping them engaged so that they continue to follow you and watch you and buy tickets and
Yeah.
buy, you know.
And it's about, it's not, so I do marketing consulting too, just because I've done so well with social media. And back in the day, I was the guy with the band that interacted with the fans and blogged every day and
Right.
handled our social media. So I was just good at connecting with people, letting people in in the know of what we were doing and just making it fun for them.
Yeah.
So that's always been a part of my life. No, even when I started fitness, I was good with the social media building and connecting with people and educating and helping people. So nowadays it's social media is my job.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I act and I train and I write and I model and I do all this stuff and I'm a musician, but what pays my bills nowadays is social media, what I post and stuff, which is all fitness, music, a lot of health stuff. But I have sponsors and all those skills I learned in the band days and the early fitness days is what supports what allows me to do all the stuff I do
So how
nowadays.
do you get it all? Like you told us you start at like 4, was it 4 a.m.?
Man, I
3:30,
wake up at
3:30.
my alarm goes off at 3:35 a.m.
Uh-huh.
I drink some water, have a protein shake, go to the gym. I start working out at 4:30 a.m. All these workouts. I am a natural pro athlete. I do while I love fitness and I got certified and I started off training people. That evolved into releasing some trainer books, getting sponsors and things just built through the last 8, 9 years. And I started competing as a natural bodybuilder in 2016.
Okay.
2016.
Which
So
is kinda like later in life for that
I
kinda
was
thing, right?
39 years old. I'm 47 now. When I do acting
I'm sorry I
jobs,
made you tell you how old you
I have
were.
to actually put in for, mid 30s, low 30s. I can't put in for 47-year-olds. It's not, they laugh at me. They're like, "What are you doing, putting in for this mid 40s role? You look like you're 30."
Right?
So, I I got off the train of thought there. What was I
Oh, we were
talking about?
talking about how you pull it all in a day because you
Oh, yeah,
go work
yes.
out 4:30.
I
How
work out.
long you work out?
And I, right now it's 75 minutes. The workouts are very intense though, because like I was saying, I compete naturally as a fitness. I got my pro card in 2017. Now with bodybuilding, there's different classes. Bodybuilding isn't wearing bikini trunks and
Uh-huh.
bodybuilding. There's a bunch of classes for both men and women,
Okay.
different requirements and different things you do on stage. So while it's all called bodybuilding, I started off in men's physique. I do sports model, classic physique. There's a lot of different things I do, but I'm a 29-time pro champion now
Wow.
in various classes. I've won some really big world championship events and stuff. So my workouts are really intense. They're pro athlete level when I go in at 4 a.m. I'm
Mhm.
full on, full intensity. It just takes some water and a protein shake and some pre-workout and it's full on. And because of social media, that's all being filmed and photographed every single day. And then I get home, get the kids ready for school, and then it's social media posting and creative work all day long until the kids get home from school.
Yeah. Where can they follow you on?
So all my social media is all Wittig Works. So my last name is Wittig, then the word works.
Mhm.
WittigWorks.com, and all social media is /Wittig Works. I tried to make it easy.
Yeah, yeah. So, when was it that, you had to go through your battle with cancer?
So that hit me in the year 2000. So right before COVID. So and that started. I'm from Southern California. We had a pool. I was out swimming every day. We'd go to the beach all the time. I tried to learn how to surf, and that was just the way it was growing up. Rarely did I put sunscreen on. My mom would sometimes put it on me, but most of the time I was out goofing with my friends at the beach or our pool and just not worrying about it.
Yeah.
Moved to Kansas, started competing in 2016. Well, a big part of competing is not just the muscles and the presentation though. You also have to have a dark tan and you have to put the oil on and all that. And that's for when you're on stage because the stage lights are bright. If you're
Mhm.
not dark enough and if you don't have that little bit of shine, the lights will wash you out
Oh,
and you
wow.
can't see the definition that you worked hard for. So those guys have tans for a reason. So I wasn't
I always
thinking.
thought, they were, that was more of a more for something else, like,
No, it's because the lights are so bright coming at you that you can't see the definition, so you have to be really
uh
dark and a little bit of a shine, so it looks right, so they can judge you.
Thought it was more a vanity thing, I always thought,
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
It's good to know.
There's a reason, and I get asked that all the time. But being just a knucklehead, even at 39, when I started competing in 2016, I was out in the backyard sun tanning. The gym with free sun tanning at their beds at the gym I went to, so I was just tanning to get dark for those competitions. And I had a little mole here on my chest, right on my left pec, that I noticed through the years was getting a little bit bigger, but it didn't look weird. It was perfectly round, one color.
Mhm.
Any other mole, that I have, it looked just like that. And I went to my doctor though after a while and said, I think this mole's getting bigger. My wife said, of course it wasn't me. My wife said, you need to go get that checked. She's a nurse.
Okay.
So my wife wanted me to get this checked, and my primary care doctor at the time, the lady, looked at it and it looks fine. It's not too big. It's perfectly round. It's not splotchy. Let's not worry about it. Well, a year later, it gotten bigger.
Oh,
I went again. Hey, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. A little bit more time went by, and this is getting close to 2000. It was gotten a lot bigger.
yeah.
My wife was like, don't ask their opinion. Let's go to a different doctor and just ask them to take it off. So I did that. I got a new doctor, went to him. He said, yeah, that's kind of big. And he took it off. Well, they called me within a couple days and said, Michael, this came back as invasive melanoma, which is
Oh,
the
wow.
worst kind of skin cancer,
Mhm.
with a death rate and a lot of dangerous stuff. And I'm going to have you see a specialist like tomorrow. Like, they were moving. It wasn't like, oh, let's
Yeah.
get you in the next month. It was like
Right.
immediately
Yeah.
to one of the best skin dermatologist in the Tulsa area. She's booked for like months out. It's very hard to get a hold of, get in. Even for me now, I book her way for an advance, but they got me in with a day or so.
Wow.
She looked at the results and said, yeah, we're going to need to have surgery next week. Like, it was quick, and I'm at home, have no idea what's going on, like Googling melanoma and getting scared. And like, for a minute there, I was, I'm a pretty positive person. I'm a believer and God's gonna take care of me, and I always see the good and work through stuff. For a second there, I was pretty distraught, like, maybe I'm gonna die, not be here for my kids, and kind of scared me for a minute. And then I got my composure and like, okay, what are we gonna do, and how am I gonna beat this? And the other aspect is I was already deep into competing at that time. I was already winning pro shows and had big plans to compete in 2000. So I'm going in February. This, invasive melanoma surgery in early March. And it's a big scar there. It's a 2.5 inches. So
Right.
they have to do what's called a wide incision. They cut you open. They have to cut out that thing, and then they sew it back together. And it's a good 2.5 inches right here. And when I'm after this, and they took an inch and a half off of my calf, there was a spot there they didn't like.
Mm.
And she's like, okay, you can't work out for like 6 weeks, or it was a long time. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm supposed to compete this spring at this big pro show. And she said, you can't work out. So unbeknownst to her, I'm a master trainer and I know how to do some things.
Sure, yeah.
So I trained when I wasn't supposed to, but I modified everything in a way. I would never advise anyone else to do it, but I knew how to do it
Right.
because you don't want that incision to open up, because then it's going to look real bad.
Yeah, it's
Real bad.
like a pro athlete that has, like a back surgery, and then by the end of the season they're back in, whereas
Yeah.
a doctor would tell an average person, well, you don't do anything for a year, and
Yeah. I did take a couple weeks off, and then I was back training, but very safely, very modified for the situation, not trying to progress, just trying to hold what I had. And then it got better, and went full on, and I still competed.
you didn't have to do the chemo and those kinds of
No,
things, just the surgery.
luckily, being where it was, luckily we did catch it early, and it wasn't as deep as it could have been. Because remember, that mole was on there for years growing.
Yeah,
It could have went deep. It could have gotten lymph nodes. It could have spread, and I could have been in where I needed chemo. Thankfully, it wasn't deep, and it hadn't progressed that far. So after the surgery, my doctor, her name is Dr. Bull. She's here in town. It's who I recommend for anybody that needs to get moles checked, because she's top tier. She said, we have clear margins. The surgery was success, clear margins. That means they feel they got every cell. And then I had to go back every 3 months and every 6 months, and now it's every year. And so far, nothing's returned. Or, every once in a while, I like recently had a mole taken off here not because it was cancerous. We just didn't like it.
Yeah.
We didn't like the way it looked, just in case, but it came back non-cancerous. So far, everything's good.
Yeah, I grew up in the Texas Gulf Coast, and so we were always at the beach or outside playing with, shirts off or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was joking about it recently. Some of my buddies and I that I grew up with were playing golf and laughing about how stupid we were, to not wear anything and
Mhm.
stay out way longer than we should have. And
Didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about it when I was 40. I
hmm
didn't think about it. My wife would always say stuff. I'm like, you like the cliche. You never think it's going to happen to you. Well, it happened, and now I have a pretty big platform in the fitness industry, with magazines and winning competitions. I'm going to be promoting and doing some business endeavors now with the natural fitness community. So I have a pretty big platform
yeah,
when it comes to all that. So now I've been able to be a voice on taking care of your skin, not sun tanning, because you know what? They just spray tan you.
yeah,
Anyways, you could show up with a dark tan. They're still going to spray tan you. I've seen the whitest athletes ever spray tan, go win the show the next day. So you
wow,
don't need to be doing your sun tanning at home. The beds increase skin cancer by like 30%.
really,
Yes, doing it in beds is super dangerous. So it's not even worth doing because they just spray tan you. So I've been able to be a part of a lot of advertising and articles and things locally with Utica Park here locally about skin cancer awareness and just trying to,
that's good, that's
hey, if
awesome,
you have moles, go get them checked. It's
yeah,
not worth it, get your kids checked. And I've had a handful of individuals email me or text me, and Michael, I went and got my mole checked and it came back cancerous and they removed it. And thank you so much for making me aware, because they were like me. They didn't even never crossed their mind.
So do you train people too now, or you have like an app we can go by that we work out with you, or
So I used to train clients years ago when I started fitness. When I got off the road with Pillar, that's what I did. I trained people, and then I started getting busier with just social media and sponsors and writing books and then acting, and all that kind of got out of control where I didn't have time to do it anymore. So nowadays I train online. Not a lot of people. I'm pretty selective. I train a handful of VIP clients that need help. I actually have them fill out an application because I'm at the point now that I only work with people that are real serious.
yeah,
It's not that they have to be famous or celebrities. I do that as well, but it could be anybody, but just someone that's ready to make changes. Because I only take on the amount of clients that I can do an amazing job for, and I'm gonna do a lot of work for them. So I need clients that are dead serious and not
yeah.
gonna mess around and be flaky.
Well, man, you've done a lot in your life, from the music to winning all these titles as a bodybuilder and doing the acting, and then, like you said, your social media and things that you're doing for the fitness community. It's just it's pretty amazing, and we're grateful that you took the time to be on a couple of our movies. Hope you'll do some more, and we'll absolutely find ways to see you on our website, OK Movie Stream. So
Yeah.
thanks again, Michael, for hanging out with us. And bye, everybody. Look for Michael. OK, Movie Stream. And when's the concert so we can start
We're going
buying
to be
tickets?
playing our very first show in 9 years on June 9th here in Tulsa, Oklahoma at Battle Creek in Broken Arrow. Tickets are for sale now and going quick on pillarmusic.com. You can find me on wittigworks.com. My new website's actually being built right now. It'd probably be up later today, where it talks about what I do with music, with bodybuilding, with writing, with modeling. And then if you need training help and want to be possibly trained by me, all that information's on wittigworks.com as well.
All right. Thanks for hanging out with us.